Ms. Rush, may I have announcements, please? Would you start with announcements?
Versal Rush and Stephanie Fate for the department ready.
Travis Yandell, Your Honor, attorney ad litem for the children, ready.
Please go ahead, Ms. Rush.
I was going to say, Mr. Acosta's here. His camera's gone off, who we will prove up is actually the presumed father of the children. And Ms. Fields, who is the mother of the children, is present. The department did serve a Michael Carrion, but we have confirmed it was the wrong Michael Carrion. So the correct Michael Carrion has not been served, was not notified, and is not appearing.
Thank you. And I believe we have Ms. Rios Perkins, who will be the CASA on the case.
Your Honor, I believe we have an agreement between the two parents. However, I'd like to call them for a very limited purpose. First, I'd like to call Ms. Fields. Regarding Xavier in London, is their father Carlos Acosta?
Yes.
And did y'all sign what's called an affidavit of paternity at the hospital, putting him on the birth certificate?
Yes.
Now, Hazel's father is Michael Carrion, is that correct?
Yes.
And he was born in 1995?
Yes.
And you believe you have a good phone number and Alyssa Wood, who's going to wave at you right now. When we get done, y'all can talk on the phone and you can give her the number and we'll get Michael served, because we served a 5'5", born in 1982, Michael Carrion by mistake. Okay.
Okay.
Are you or any member of your family a registered member of an American Indian tribe?
No.
Okay. So, do you know, let's back up. Is Michael Carrion a registered member of any Indian tribe?
Not that I know of.
Okay. You and I have discussed, along with Mr. Yandell, that today the department is asking that we be continued as temporary managing conservator, which means we got temporary custody, that the kiddo stay with your mom, and that you work services, including drug testing, drug assessments, parenting classes, all kinds of stuff that you're going to set up with the family plan of service with Miss Wood and Miss Boucher. That'll be set up after today. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And you understand we'll pay for it all. So if you've got any kind of problems, now is the time to take care of them, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions about anything I've talked to you about?
No.
And you understand we're going to ask the court today to order you to take a hair test and a UA drug test. And as long as you take the test, whether you fail it or pass it, you get to have your visits. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Before I say pass the witness, do you have any questions?
No.
I'm sorry. You do want us to get you an application for court-appointed attorney, and Miss Wood will get that to you, okay?
Okay.
And I won't go into it, but you gave me a Gmail address for your email, and I explained how that's going to work, right?
Yes.
Okay, pass the witness.
Mr. Acosta, do you have any questions for Ms. Fields?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Yandell?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may call your next witness, Ms. Rush.
Department calls Mr. Acosta. And you signed an acknowledgement of paternity at the hospital or thereabouts, along with Ms. Fields, admitting that Xavier and London are your children. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you or any member of your family a registered member of an American Indian tribe?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You and I have discussed with Mr. Yandell that the department wants to be continued as temporary managing conservator while you work some services. And you're in agreement with that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You do understand, as I told Ms. Fields, if you've got any problems, state and the department are going to be paying for any problems you may have. So now's a good time to deal with it. Would you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Right now, you do not have an email address, but you're going to get one and you're going to give it to Alyssa, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Alyssa, wave again. Okay. You've given me an address in Britain.
Yes, ma'am.
And so for at least today's stuff, you're going to get it in the mail, which means it'll probably be sometime next week. Okay.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
And you heard me tell Ms. Fields, as long as you take the drug test we're going to ask for today, which is a UA and a hair, you'll get to have visits. This court's policy is if you do not take a drug test, then your visits stop until you take the drug test. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you got any questions before I say pass the witness?
No, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Fields, do you have any questions for Mr. Acosta?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Yondell?
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Fields, if I may, I forgot to ask you, are you currently married to anyone?
No, ma'am.
And has there ever been any type of custody or any type of legal action regarding Hazel?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. And Mr. Acosta, I need to ask you the same thing. Are you currently married to anyone?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. You may call your next witness.
Department calls Stephanie Fade.
Ms.
As
Fade?
such, were you called out to the Acosta Fields case?
Yes, ma'am.
And during that investigation, did the mother admit to you that she had used meth that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she also tell you that she had been using meth with Mr. Acosta?
Yes, ma'am.
About the time that you got the admission, was that about 4:22 on the Friday before Juneteenth?
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, was the only person who had the care, custody, and control of these children the mother?
Yes, ma'am.
And did the mother's mother say she'd be glad to take all three children, but she wanted a court order?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree with me that at 4:22, the Friday before what was going to be a 3-day federal holiday, though not a state holiday, there was an immediate danger to the physical harm, immediate danger to the physical safety of these three children to be left in the care of their mother who admitted to meth use that day?
Yes, ma'am.
When the drug test came back, did Ms. Fields test positive for cocaine?
Yes, ma'am.
What was her comment to you about the cocaine test?
She forgot that she had used a line of cocaine the day before she used meth.
You've also gotten drug tests on 2 of the 3 children, some of the drug tests back, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I didn't know this, but as I understand it, the fentanyl testing is done by somebody else.
Correct.
Okay. Has Hazel tested negative on everything?
Yes.
However, we've only gotten the non-fentanyl test back on Xavier in London. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did they both test positive for methamphetamines?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree with me that a child of the age of 1 and a child of the age of 2 are not smoking methamphetamines in the bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
They've been tested for fentanyl. We just don't have it back, right?
Correct.
Are you asking the court to find that there were exigent circumstances because of the meth admission? And did you also have allegations that there had been domestic violence between Mr. Acosta and Ms. Fields?
Yes, ma'am.
And did all of that lead you to request the exigent removal and get a court order after the removal?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you asking the court to approve that exigent removal?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we thought we had Mr. Carrion, but you understand we got the wrong Mr. Carrion.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless he shrunk 7 inches and grew 13 years in the last couple of years, okay? But that's not your problem. We're going to take care of that with Alyssa, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you asking the court to find that London and Xavier are not Indian children based upon what we've heard today, but defer any finding regarding Hazel until we get a hold of Michael?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you also asking the court to to continue the department's temporary managing conservator, name Carlos, temporary possessory conservator of Xavier and London, to name Ms. Fields, temporary possessory conservator of all 3 children, to enter the standard orders to require both Mr. Acosta and Ms. Fields to take hair and drug testing to not make any findings on Mr. Carrion, because we got the wrong Mr. Carrion, and to enter the standard orders regarding drug testing and such.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, is it your understanding that Mr. Acosta was not arrested for assault family violence?
That is correct.
So there's no bond conditions prohibiting him from seeing the children or anything, right?
Correct.
However, do you believe that the drug use by both parents, the fact that the 2 of the 3 children have tested positive for meth, the fact that we've got the wrong Michael Carrion, and the allegations of domestic violence constitute a continuing danger if either of these any of these children are returned to either parent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you asking this court to set this for a status hearing on August the 9th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. in Breckenridge and give notice to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Set this for a permanency hearing for December 13th, 2023 at 9:30 in Breckenridge and give notice to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Set this for a permanency hearing on April the 10th, 2024 at 9:30 and give notice to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
The children were placed with their grandmother because we got the court order and that's what she wanted to get placement, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Any concerns with the placement?
No, ma'am.
And both Mr. Acosta and Miss Fields have had their 3-day visit or whatever they call it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else about the kiddos or the parents court needs to know before I pass you?
No, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Fields, do you have any questions for Ms. Fade?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Acosta, do you have any questions for Ms. Fade?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Yondell?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Fade, are there any further police involvement that you're expecting from the night that the children were removed from the house?
No, sir. Well, not for the domestic violence, but possibly for the drug use.
Okay, and that is, you don't have any inside information. You just have a little bit that you've done this for a while and you're kind of expecting additional charges, or do you have more specific information?
It's going to be up to them. We've turned over what they needed.
And is them going to be the police or the district attorney's office there?
Yes, sir.
Are there any medical issues with the children?
No, sir.
And I understand that Ms. Walker wanted a court order, but that didn't give you any pause as to putting the children into her care. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen the children since they've been in her care?
I have seen them at the daycare. Yes, sir.
And did you or has the daycare reported any issues with the children since being placed with Ms. Walker?
No concerns.
Thank you. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Fade, I believe you testified that the mother tested positive for cocaine.
Yes, ma'am.
What type of test was that?
It was an oral mouth swab.
And do you know what date that was?
That test was given on 6/16.
Thank you. Ms. Rush, anything further from this witness?
Stephanie, it was a mouth swab, but it was sent off, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it lab verified?
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Fields, any questions for Ms. Fade?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Acosta, any questions for Ms. Fade?
I was just wondering, since I wasn't around whenever Brooke was tested, how would I be charged with anything like having drugs around the kids?
Okay, sir, that is a question for law enforcement. This court hearing has nothing to do with law enforcement, and so you would have to speak with law enforcement regarding that. Mr. Yondell, anything further from Ms. Fade?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Rush, any additional witnesses?
Department rests.
Thank you. Ms. Fields, is there anything you would like me to know or any witnesses you'd like me to consider at this time?
I'd like my family to be witnesses that I'm not a horrible person, and I just messed up for the time being. I got sober because when I was a kid, I was a user, and since I had the first kid, I was sober ever since then. But then I guess just I can't deal with my emotions, and so me messing up like that, I guess. I mean, I take full responsibility for what I did. That's why I admitted to it,
Yes, ma'am. Let me
Um,
ask you a few questions. What is your mom's first name?
Kelly.
Thank you. And does she live in Stevens County?
Yes.
Thank you. And are you employed?
Yes, I actually just got a job. I start
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay. And what type of work will you be doing?
It'll be at Sonic Drive-In over here. I'm taking anything I can get. I've applied at a lot of places.
And do you know how much you're going to get paid an hour?
$9 starting off. They're gonna bump me up because I'm experienced over there.
Okay.
So
And how
I
do
just
you know
got
about? I'm sorry.
I just have to prove that I'm gonna stay there to get bumped up higher.
And do you know about how many hours a week you're going to be working?
It'll be about between 30 and 40.
And at this time, what the department is telling me is that you've agreed to leave the children with their grandmother with the department having custody, temporary custody, and you working services. Is that in fact your agreement today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you need me to know at this point in time?
No, not that I can think of.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Acosta. Do you have any witnesses you'd like me to consider at this time?
No, ma'am.
Is there anything you would like me to know regarding your situation or the children that has not already been discussed at this time?
No, ma'am.
Okay, let me ask you the same type of questions. Are you employed, sir?
No, ma'am. I am currently looking for a job.
And how are you paying your bills currently?
I am not. I am living with family.
Okay. And what the department has told me is that at this point in time, you're in agreement to leaving your children with their grandmother and with the department having legal temporary custody and you working these services. Is that in fact your agreement, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Yondell, do you have any witnesses you'd like me to consider at this time?
No witnesses, Your Honor. I'd arrest and close with
Does
recommendation.
Thank you. Does everybody close?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Yondell, as attorney ad litem for the children, what is your recommendation?
Your Honor, my recommendation is that the department remain as temporary managing conservator and that that the children remain with their maternal grandmother, Mrs. Walker, Kelly Walker, while the parents are allowed the opportunity to work services.
Thank you. And Ms. Rios Perkins.
Jessica had to get off.
I was looking for Ms. Navarro, do you have a recommendation on behalf of the guardian ad litem?
Just that we agree with the department and the attorney ad litem.
Thank you. Then the court is going to make the following findings. The court is going to approve the agreement between the parents. The court is going to find that there was sufficient evidence to satisfy a person of ordinary prudence and caution that there was a danger to the physical health or safety of the children, which was caused by an act or a failure to act of the people entitled to possession. The court further finds it's contrary to the welfare of the children to remain in the home of the parents, and the urgent need for protection required the immediate removal of the children and reasonable efforts consistent with the circumstances providing for the safety of the children were made to eliminate or prevent the removal of the children, and reasonable efforts have been made to enable the children to return home to a parent, but there is still a substantial risk of continuing danger if the children are returned to a parent. The court is going to find, based upon the testimony, that the removal met all of the requirements for an exigent removal, and the removal was an appropriate action in this matter. The court is going to name the department as a temporary managing conservator of all 3 children. The court is going to legally establish Mr. Acosta as the legal father of Xavier and London Acosta based on the testimony of both Ms. Fields and Mr. Acosta and on the acknowledgement of paternity. The court is going to make a specific finding that the Acosta children are not Indian children based upon the testimony provided by both of the parents. The court is going to order each of the parents to undergo parenting classes, counseling, and that can be both individual and family counseling, and to also address issues of domestic violence, a substance abuse assessment, and follow all recommendations, to undergo random drug screens upon request, complete and participate in a psychological evaluation and follow all recommendations, obtain and maintain a legal source of income or employment, obtain and maintain a safe and stable home with working utilities. I'm going to order both of the parents to help develop their family service plan and to comply with that family service plan. I'm going to order both of the parents to keep all parties updated with their contact information and email. And I understand that Mr. Acosta will provide that email once he has that set up. Relationship and employment status. Both parents are ordered to allow all parties to make announced and unannounced home visits, to provide monthly in-kind support. I'm not looking for money. I'm just looking for if they need diapers or if they need formula or if they need some water wings or something like that for the summer, that you just help provide and help Miss Walker out with those expenses. Also, I'm ordering both of the parents to sign medical, mental health, and drug releases, and to provide an email address. And understand that Ms. Fields will do that after this hearing. I don't want you to put it out to the world, Ms. Fields. In addition, the court is specifically going to find that these children were not removed on any of the Texas Family Code 262.116 factors. These children were not removed because they may have been homeschooled, came from an economically disadvantaged background, received medical marijuana, or was behind on immunizations, or engaged in independent activities, nor was the removal based on the fact that a parent received a nonviolent misdemeanor charge, sought out a second medical opinion, or that the child or children tested positive for marijuana alone in a way that significantly impaired the physical or emotional well-being of the children. The court is going to set these hearings. The next time that we're in a courtroom setting is for the status hearing. That is set for August the 9th of 2023 at 9:30. The second hearing after that is December the 13th of 2023 at 9:30. And the second permanency hearing after that is set for April the 10th of 2024 at 9:30. In addition, as to the request for the attorney, you always, both of the parents have a right to hire or retain an attorney of their choice at any given time during this case. You also have the right to continue to represent yourself like you've done today, and you have the right to request a court-appointed attorney. In Texas, in order to get a court-appointed attorney in a civil case, it's a two-step process. One, you have to be opposed to what the department is asking. And both Ms. Fields and Mr. Acosta have indicated that they are in agreement with the plan of the department at this time. Second of all, you have to meet the indigency requirements, and I have no idea what your financial life is at this time. So you can always fill out a request for a court-appointed attorney, and we can address that at any given time, and we'll address that at each and every hearing. In addition, this is for the parents. I'm required by law to tell you it's not a threat. If you're unable to provide your children with a safe and stable home environment, your parental rights to these children could be restricted or terminated.